No, our first half hour Gr12 phase 2, 22nd of July starts.
William's here. He was just getting this all submitted. At the front. He found it. Oh, hi. Let me go back to bed. Don't fall.
Okay, right, so going.
Would you like to email?
Gone. Okay, so this is absolutely critical, and so I'm going through it again and saying,
We'll try and make it. Technically make it. Who wants to do the study group for the exams?
take one of each of those. William, Julia. Okay, guys, can you see? No, not you. I'm going to hit the button. Okay. Why is only one of you showing here, but it says that the other people? Okay, right, moving on.
Wait, that was the two things, right?
Three.
Or the third one's gone out.
Yeah, there was only one of this.
Okay, just tear yours in half, give half to him.
He actually needs to tear it in three pieces.
Tear in 3 pieces, good.
You can tell me the
Remind me later on to go and have a look. Oh, here we go. Josh, just take a photo of someone's, please.
Yes, sir.
I know you're not going to do it in any case, so it's fine.
Okay. Wait, will be printed and this is next time, yeah?
It's literally just.
They're probably a whole lot of good store.
Oh, okay, cool.
Take a photo.
Yes, I am. I've been here for 4 minutes.
People are already. This is like married fights. Yeah. Are we gonna have to repeat with you and Bryce? No, if you beat on time, it would be
Michelle's not rocking. Need to record it and just go. Okay. Right, so to start again, now that some more people have joined us, welcome.
So we're going to do this traffic.
Okay. Right. Cannon, you're going to have to put that over your nose and keep it over your nose. Okay. So remember we were talking about Charles Darwin and their 4 main points. Now, depending on the source that you look at, they might drag these.
You just pass me love notes now, don't worry.
And next thing, somebody's got COVID and I'm in trouble because you guys touched the same things. And warning. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and take a photo of that thing.
Should I keep up? No,
Oh, then I have
Maybe I already have this.
Yeah,
I came late and my spot was taken out.
But now I've touched it, so I can't do this.
Yeah.
I think I already have this. Oh no, you all took it.
Okay, you know what? You can cope. I can see you arriving at the wedding ceremony and going, oh no, wait, I think I'm already married. Deal with it. You're old enough.
Sure.
To be married.
You guys are old enough to push out babies now. There you go. Right, okay. So, different sources may say that they're not 4 points, they're 6 points, or whatever. Basically, they're the same thing. Kaylin knows, or else I'm throwing you out. Okay. So the first thing is there is variation between the individuals of most populations. Okay, definition of a population, ready, steady, go. Ruth.
A group of organisms that are from the same species that live in the same area close enough so that they can reproduce.
Okay, all right. And these are just 2 pictures that show you variation between the individuals. Some of that variation is inherited. In other words, controlled by genes rather than controlled by the environment. Okay, so you're happy that certain variation isn't inherited. Okay, so if a person eats too much food, they will be more round than a person who eats a balanced diet. Okay, but that's an environmental thing. Remember that this came from, I think, Malthus, that populations tend to produce more offspring than the environment can support, and relate this to your population ecology studies, where you know that limiting factors start to affect a population when it exceeds its carrying capacity. Abbreviation for carrying capacity, ready, steady, go, Julia.
When the environment reaches the...
No, not definition, abbreviation.
Oh, is it K or R? No, I don't know.
Is it K or R? Carrying capacity.
Is it carrying capacity C? What? If it does...
It's now getting worse.
It's
It's capital K.
Oh, okay, that's what I mean.
Okay, right. Everybody okay? So that it's a capital K for carrying capacity. And therefore, this would be a limiting factor. Give me 3 density-dependent factors that could become limiting. Hi, Tam. Could become...
Huh?
1, 2, and take a photo. Or you might have one already. 1, 2. No, you probably got that already. 1, 2. Get away from her.
Oh, these ones. One. Yeah, I've got that. And where's 2?
Two's there.
Oh,
Sorry guys, it's very...
It's 9 o'clock now.
Yeah.
It's not a bad problem.
go to the lesson. But I don't think it's your right to ask what you missed when you arrived 20 minutes late. 1, 2. 1,
You see?
2. Take a photograph of 3 if you don't have 3. Not now. Go and sit. And it's not Trisha's fault. It's actually Michelle's fault. Well, I think it's Kaylin's fault.
No, it's Michelle's fault because Kaylin already started reading.
No, but then Kaylin chose not to come to school for a while.
Can I show you a photo at the end of the lesson now?
Of these brats.
No, a fish that has teeth and looks like a human.
That's creepy.
Okay, moving on.
That was getting my name.
Okay. All right, so quickly. 3 density-dependent factors that would limit the size to which a population can grow. Matthew, you're next in line because we dealt with Ruth and Julia. Go.
What's the question? You were saying a few density-dependent factors. Few density-dependent factors on.
It could affect the growth of a population.
Okay, let me think. Could I just say biotic? I don't know.
I can see that.
I'm not sure.
Now I can see that as well.
Climate.
No, that's not density dependent. Go, Kaylin.
The area. Carrying capacity, sorry. The amount of
Number.
what is
The number of
the number of animals in the area?
No. Michelle, go. Oh, God, please help me.
Food, water,
Availability of food, availability of water,
space of the fucker.
availability of space. Okay, right, you happy with those? Okay, and therefore individuals struggle to survive because of that. Those individuals whose traits best suit them to survive in the environment will be healthier, they will survive for longer, they are able to have sexual intercourse more frequently, or total number of bouts in their lifetime, have more sexual intercourse, and are able to leave more offspring than those with less suitable traits. If the favorable characteristics are genetically inherited, then more of the following generation will inherit the favorable characteristics than don't. And that's basically natural selection. Okay, right. So in that folder there are two videos, Evolution 101 and Theory of Evolution. Very faintly, you can see them there. You should be watching those at this point. Okay. Selective pressures, also known as selection pressures. And these are exactly the same as we've just described. So these are environmental factors which reduce reproductive success in a population and therefore may contribute to evolutionary change through the process of natural selection. So it would be a competition for resources such as food or reproductive partners. Okay, right. So a selective pressure here or a selection pressure here would be, you need to be nerd-like to be able to participate in computer games. Okay, and Ethan sadly doesn't have the characteristics required. Okay, do you understand? What are these two organisms doing? Are these two organisms antelope? Here.
Yes.
Or are they deer?
It's a deer.
They're very competitive.
What is it? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are deer, man. Like, antelope don't have reindeers.
I still think that.
Okay. So these things here are antlers. They're not horns. So these are antlers, they're not horns. Antelope that live in Africa, and you only get antelope in Africa and a little bit in the Middle Eastern countries, like oryx live in the Middle Eastern countries as well. In North America, it's deer. It's not antelope. They're different things. They're not related to each other than both being mammals. These antlers are very different from the horns of, say, an impala. The horns of an impala grow from the skull. They consist of bone covered with keratin. And they don't replace them every year. So if one breaks off, sorry for you, you live like a unicorn for the rest of your life.
Wait, so ma'am, breaking a horn is like breaking a bone. Does it
Absolutely.
hurt like that?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, it must do, because blood vessels and nerves are in it and whatever. Whereas antlers are shed every year.
Wait, seriously?
You regrow
Yeah.
those things?
So they use them just prior to the mating season. And if you remember back to when we did population studies, I said to you that one of the ways in which survival of the fittest occurs in antelope is that what will happen is they go through a process known as rutting. So consider male impalas in South Africa. Okay, so what they do in about May is the males go through a process called rutting. And what they do is they challenge each other. So they put their No, now you sideways like a crab.
Yeah.
So what they do is they put their heads together and they push against each other. Now most of the time they don't injure each other, but it is possible that they might actually injure each other and might even actually, one might kill another one. But it's not generally like that. So they push against each other and they clash against each other with force. Buffalo do exactly the same thing until eventually one of those two actually gives up and acknowledges that the other one is stronger. So the weaker one will then trot off and go to a different area and challenge another male. So that eventually what will happen is that the reserve or the area will be divided into territories. And the strongest male will have the biggest territory, which means that he has the majority of the females, because he's got the biggest territory. The next strongest male will have a slightly smaller territory and fewer females. And so it'll carry on going until eventually you've got the sad little bachelor herd. That have no females. Okay.
Looks like a bug.
Okay. All right. So the bachelor herd then has no females and doesn't reproduce with any females. So what does this mean? It could mean that these guys are the youngest. They're young, they haven't yet developed the muscles and the ability to fight. It could mean that they're not strong. So they have reached maturity, they're old enough, but they're not strong. Okay? Or it could mean that they're old and past it. So if they're still young, they have the potential to at some stage be a dominant male and have a big territory and have a large harem of females with which the male can mate. Or it could mean that they will never get to mate. Okay, and what's the advantage of that? The advantage is that the strongest male mates with the majority of the females, and therefore, of the following generation, the majority of genes that are inherited are from the strongest male. And so this is an excellent example of survival of the fittest. Matt?
So one of two things can happen when one of them get kicked out. So it's either that it's too old and it's too weak, or I don't know if does the parent kick out the offspring when it's reaching maturity because they can see that it's going to get.
Not in this case. So the majority of the year they will actually hang around in herds where they're not trying to get rid of each other. It's just during time of heightened testosterone. So when the males secrete a large quantity of testosterone, then they will be aggressive and they will do this. They will do the rutting. But it's only during a certain time of the year, and it's only when females are about to go into estrus and ready to be mated. For the rest of the time of the year, males will tolerate each other and they will actually mingle together like that. So it's not as if they're kicking them out. It's that it's only during the rutting that the male will get rid of any males who challenge him.
And that applies to all of the
Antelope.
antelope.
I would say many of the antelope species do that.
Because
I know that buffalo do as well.
yeah, because you get like springbok that some of them, you'll have like one that's a loner that usually looks like the youngest or the weakest thing, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and
they
it's
just get
probably
kicked out because he's the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah, but he may be allowed to mingle with the rest of the herd at a different time.
So it's just doing that
Yeah.
amazing
Sometimes they
thing.
chill with them, Carla.
The Springbok do.
Yeah.
Shame, man. Okay. So anyway. So the thing about antlers is that they fall off every year. So for a while, the males don't have any antlers at all, and then next year they grow a new pair of antlers. And if I remember correctly, they grow bigger and bigger and bigger as the males get. So next year, a male will have a bigger pair of antlers than he had last year, because now he's older. And in fact, there will be more forks, if I remember correctly, this next year than there were last year, because he's an older male. Okay, all right. So Darwin deduced that more individuals, more offspring are produced than the environment can support, which leads to a struggle for existence, with only a small percentage of individuals surviving in each generation. And he noted that the chance for surviving the struggle is not random, but it is dependent on how well adapted each individual is to its environment. Now please remember, we're talking adapted here, but we're not saying that each individual tried to be adapted. So you can't have each individual going, yeah, you know, there's drought and there's a famine and the fruit is up there, I need to grow. It can't happen, okay? It just doesn't. So this is not something where the individuals actually try and adapt to a particular environment. I can try as long as I like, I'm never going to grow any taller. And this right arm of mine is never going to be able to reach the second shelf of the cupboard, let alone the third. Okay, so well-adapted or fit individuals will more likely leave a greater number of offspring than their less well-adapted competitors. Okay. Who's watching Wild Earth live safaris?
I used to.
Oh, my dad wasn't here.
Kia, should you be watching them?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Dad, you know. Okay. Then you will know that in the Kalahari, the one reserve in Swalu, one of the groups of meerkats has just had pups, and they came above the ground for the first time last week. So they're 5 little pups. And off they go day 1 to go foraging, and tomorrow they're 4 little pups. 2 days later, they're 3 little pups. Okay. And in fact, the guide who's actually narrating that particular segment of Wild Earth Safaris said, right from the start, he said one of these is smaller than the others and it's lagging behind. Now, he didn't at that stage of the game say this one's going to be the first one to go. But the next morning, when that little one didn't appear from the burrow, he said that it was the one that was lagging behind. And then the following day, he said, one of these 4 is smaller and slower than the others. And then the next morning, that one didn't appear. So it's basically just going, it's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this on, what you call it, Animal Planet?
No, I do know that they've just started putting it onto SABC, one of the things in the afternoon, I think it's between 3 and 4. But if you Google it, it's
Is it a YouTube channel?
a YouTube thing, and it's every morning for 3 hours, from 6:30 to 9:30.
What's it called again?
Wild Earth Live Safaris.
Oh, I've seen it. They're like, it's like a street, right?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen it. It's not
Yes.
really locked down.
And there's one in the evening, well, the afternoon from 3 until 6.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they've got guides that are going around certain reserves. So there's one in KZN, 3 in Mpumalanga, and 1 in the Kalahari. And they go from guide to guide to guide, and they're filming the whole thing, and the guides are busy talking about the things that they're seeing, the animals and the plants and the things that they're seeing. They're absolutely incredible. They really, really are.
Is this like a virtual game genre?
Yeah, it's,
Yes,
it's
yes.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So, yeah, I do not spend 6 hours of my day watching this. But what I do is I get it on my phone in the morning and the afternoon, and I put it next to my computer, and I sort of listen with half an ear, and I look if it's something that I'm interested in. But a lot of the animals, a lot of the predators are having babies now. Why would herbivores not be having babies now? Because it's winter, but I need you to go one step further. There's not enough food sources. Okay, because rain in South Africa is mostly in summer, spring and summer. Food sources for herbivores are most abundant during spring and summer. And so the majority of them will be having their babies, the herbivores will be having their babies in spring and summer. However, for the predators, there's always food available. In fact, during winter, more animals are sadly wandering around there not getting enough food. And so for a predator, it's actually a bonus to have babies now, because they can be getting all the sad little I'm not getting enough food impala and feeding them to their children. Okay, so the predators year-round, herbivores, during spring and summer.
Now, are there like any other animals that like murder each other?
fine.
Like that actually like one of the serial killers?
So, yes. So, for example,
In the first half hour, Gr12 phase 2, 22nd of July. Oh,